everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox, here again to remind you that this is the best season of your life. We've been going through this journey of self discovery, and on my show, for those of you that follow me, and of course, my journey started years ago, 15 years ago, when I came to the realization that I was living an identity that was not mine. It was an identity that was imposed upon me, and I took it upon myself to start really searching and digging in, and asking questions. And then I came to the realization that a lot of the influence that I had was due to teachings, uh, just social construct, religious indoctrination, which played a big part in shaping my identity. And I started this journey to really discover my true authentic self, and it has served me well. As a result, my whole desire, as a matter of fact, when I started this show, but just my whole desire in life, when I go back and talk to people and they tell me about myself, and I go back and social media and I look at some of the comments that I have made, all has to do with helping people reach their full potential, inspiring people and encouraging and motivating people to live their true authentic self, to discover who they are, and so that they can live a meaningful life. And thank you for subscribing to my show, and for actually walking through this journey with me, or realizing, as a matter of fact, I'm happy for you that you realize that you also are discovering that there's more to you than what you have been all these years. Because unless you rediscover yourself, and it's not that you are hidden or lost, it's just that you are coming into an awareness, into a conscious awareness of who you are, away from external influence. You're discovering, who you are, what you like, the way you think, the way you process things, your views on things, where you like to go, the jobs you like to do, what makes you happy, what keeps you encouraged, what keeps you energized, what gives you vigor, what stimulates you, what type of conversations you like to have. All of those questions you're being able to answer now. And that is because when you discover who you are, those are the things that come into play, and it allows you to live your true authentic self. Now, most of you, or I'm going to address those of you that have expressed the challenge you're having with your religious indoctrination, and how you have come to a place that really, put the brakes on you. It's hard for you to progress simply because because of the thoughts you have in your mind. But keep in mind, if you stick, the stories that you cling to, it will make you unavailable to learn new things. So in your mind, I encourage you to open up, open up your mind, so that you can learn new things. Otherwise, you will cling to the things that you have already been taught, the things that you have already learned, all the teaching and indoctrination that you have already absorbed. When you cling to that, you have no room to learn the new. So you will be stuck in the person that you were shaped and formed based on external influences. So I'm going to encourage you. And again, I know my show is not for everyone, and neither is this show meant to offend anyone. So I'm just saying, if this does not resonate with you, then it's not for you. But for you that are going through this journey of self-discovery, of becoming aware of who you are, this is for you. And for you that have said how you have come to a place of a standstill, you don't know where to go because your desire to evolve is conflicting with your religious belief. Now, and you want to know how I did it. Now, one of the things that is so foreign, or let me just refer to myself, that was so foreign to me was when I got born again, that I took on a whole new world. I came from a life of being free and happy and carefree and happy-go-lucky to a life of structure, of rules and laws and indoctrination, and just a life that is so boxed in that I really could not be myself. But I became accustomed to that. I became used to that. So that's the way I lived for many years. But when I started, when I took on this path of self-discovery, this journey, then I realized that there's just so much more. And then I went back to the root. What caused it? And when I realized that it was due to my religious indoctrination, that I was so shaped, so formed, so you know guided and so trapped in that thought of my self-image, I realized, wow, that's not good. It wasn't a good thing for me. So because it had to do with my religious indoctrination, I went back because before, when I read the Bible when I was a Christian, I read it with a biased mind. My mind was so biased. I read it as a book of history, stories that came from truth, and I did not question who wrote it, what the purpose was, who this God was. I didn't question any of that. I was just guided by the information that's written in the Bible. It didn't even dawn on me to ask, to really build a concept of this God that was imposed upon me and which I took upon myself with no questions at all. I did not question anything. But then when I went back, when I was somewhat journeying through this self-discovery process, I had to ask question. Why did I believe that? And how did it affect my life? And I'm telling you, it had, I would say, almost 100% of how I was is the transformation that I took upon me when I got born again. So in my mind, I thought, okay, I'm going to have to go to the source and go back to the God that was taught to me because I had no evidence other than the information that was given to me based on what is written in the Bible. So you know what? I went back. Yeah, I had over 100 Bibles and I got rid of all of them, but I still have my digital Bible that I could reference. And I went back and I started to ask these questions, about this God that is the author of everything that I was taught. And so I went back and I started asking all these questions. And the thing is, when you take on this path of journeying for self-discovery, you have to understand, I understood that I was the main character of this journey in my life. I was the principal character, the main person. I am the protagonist. And I don't need to say was because I'm still going through this journey. The journey doesn't have a destination. It's a continuing evolution. You keep evolving and evolving. But I am the one, and I had to do it now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. No, I had to do it now because you know what? I purpose to live in the moment and enjoy life. Remember, my whole idea was to live a meaningful, fulfilled life now, being my true, authentic self. And I had to get out of this box. So I started questioning the author of this whole religious doctrine. As I mentioned before, my whole thing was that shaped the identity that I lived for many years was religious indoctrination. And when I start asking questions and trying to figure out who this God was, because again, the God that I had in mind was in my visual image in my mind was a God based on the information I got from the Bible. So I went through it, and I wanted to discover the characteristics. I wanted to discover um, the plan, the attributes of this God. Because if you're going to serve someone, you need to know who they are. If you say you're in a relationship, you need to know the attributes, the character of the person with whom you have a relationship. And as I start reading the Bible again with critical eyes and started to implement my critical thinking skills, I became totally unbiased. And what I did was humanize the whole story of the Bible. And I start humanizing it because we read it, and it's just such a thing, but we don't really humanize it to have it relate to us as we are today, because we're humans. And if we're humans, the characters that the Bible talk about, they were also humans. And let me preface this. I don't follow the Bible anymore. To me, it's a book of fairy tales. It's a book of fable. I don't believe in that. But I'm taking it from a standpoint of when I did believe and follow the Bible. So going back to the God of the Bible that was indoctrinated to me, the information that I got, the information that I absorb and totally transform my life. So when I go back to the Bible, and it says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth and so forth. But then let's get to the point. And I'm not going to make any give any scriptural reference, because this is not a Bible study. I encourage you for self. And if that is your issue, you do your own search, because my opinion is not going to work for you. This is the truth that I discovered for my life. So I encourage you, I may give keywords. You can always go to AI or Google or Wikipedia. You can go to a lot of, YouTube. There are so many references where you can get information and learn your truth, the truth that applies to your life, because that's the truth that's going to set you free. So anyway, I went back and I started thinking about, this God. So he created man. So God saw it fit to create man. And he said, Adam, I am created you to tend to the earth, to till the ground and so forth. And then he saw that Adam was alone, and he created animals. No animal was suitable for no animal was suited for Adam. So he created woman. He created woman, and there came Eve. But before he created Eve, he gave uh, he gave some instructions to Adam, and he said, "You can eat of all from the fruit of the trees except for this particular tree. You can't touch it, because the day you touch it, you shall surely die." That instruction was given to Adam. So when Eve came out, they're hanging around and chilling in the garden, and I don't know, she walks off to the tree that was there, and the serpent comes up and said, "You shall not surely die." And she said no. She said the instructions were, evidently Adam may have shared it with her, we cannot eat it, and we cannot touch it. And again, the serpent repeats, "You shall not surely die." The point is, she takes the fruit. Many say it was an apple. I happen to like apple. I have an apple every single day, and I love it. Regardless of what it was, she took of the fruit and she ate it. And then she went over to Adam and she gave Adam to eat from the fruit of the fruit. And he ate of it. Their eyes became open. They got filled with knowledge. And that's what happens when you gain knowledge. It's like information. Your eyes open. You become aware. You become consciously aware of your surroundings, of things. You make judgment. You make decisions. You become knowledgeable. You can exercise critical thinking and so forth. So they became aware. And they thought they saw that they were naked. And before, their eyes wasn't open to that detail. They saw that they were naked, and kind of covered themselves with fig leaves and so forth. And then God, who created them, came walking in the garden and said, "I see that you have eaten of the tree." And he said, "Because you have done this thing," obviously in his mind, disobeyed my guidance, you're going to be messed up. And at that point, God instituted, he created, he implemented the emotions of fear. Okay? Fear, hatred, sorrow. He cursed the land. So he implemented all of that. Because when he was walking in the garden, it says Adam and Eve were afraid. They were afraid. So he did not do anything. He said, "No, no, no, I'm your dad. You don't have to be afraid." He became afraid. And then, he proceeded to tell Eve that, there's going to be enmity between the serpent and her, and he was going to increase her sorrow and childbearing and all of that. I mean, he just implemented a punishment to the children he created. And then he cursed the land, and he said that from this day, you will toil by the sweat of your brow, and it will be difficult for you to make a living. It won't be easy. You will struggle. You will strive. You will go without. You will, he said, it's sorrow. So I read that, and I started asking questions, because I'm saying, remember, I'm thinking critically now, and I'm saying, wait a minute. These are your children or your creation. And remember, the Bible says God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He said, "I am the Lord and I change not. I do not change. I am the same yesterday, today, and forever." That's what he said, according to the Bible. So I'm asking, I'm like, wait a minute, these are your kids. Like, wait a minute, where is the element of compassion, of empathy, sympathy? Just imagine this. Just imagine this example. You buy this big house and you build a pool. And you put no railings around the pool. No railings, no fence, nothing around the pool. And here are your kids, 6 and 5 years old. And you said to them, "Don't get close to the edge because you can fall into the pool. If you get close to the edge, you can fall into the pool, and because you're so young, you don't know how to swim yet, you could drown. You build this fence. I mean, you build this pool with no fence. So you were inside, and for some reason, they both got out the house and they're running around the pool, and you're inside, and you're not really privy of what's happening with them. And little buddy falls into the water, falls into the water. And you say, I told you not to get close to the edge because you could fall into the water and drown and whatever. And just imagine if you just turn your back and walk off and do nothing to try to rescue little buddy. And so I start thinking of this whole thing in the Garden of Eden, when God realized that they had disobeyed or eaten of the fruit, he kicked them out of the garden. Their father, their creator, their God. See, the Bible was written by men, and this is the story, the way it was framed, and this is the story that affected my life and caused me to live according to it for many years. And as a result, my whole identity was changed because I believed it and I followed it many years. So he is the father, and he kicks them out of the garden. You know, when I humanize it and start thinking about myself, you know what I think about? When I was younger, when I was little, my dad sent us to boarding school. That's what you do, you know, in my country. When you are able to, you send your kids off to boarding school, and you know, they come home and they go back and so forth. And I was kicked out of boarding school 3 times for mischief. You know, I was young, I was a little girl, and you know, come to find out that I was missing my parents, because you know, boarding school is, you know, you have the dean of the dorm, and you have other students as well, and you know, it's a foreign environment. It was my sister and I, and my sister, she adapted very well, but I didn't. Different personalities. So I got kicked out once. My dad was able to get me back in. I got kicked out a second time. And, you know, he talked to the general manager and, you know, whatever arrangement they made. And he was able to get me back in again. And the third time, they kicked me out a third time. And then they said, no mas. That's it. They generally, when we go home for vacation, they the instructions were, or you know, the provision was to put us on a direct flight from this country to the next. Direct flight. Well, guess what? They put me on a connecting flight. My dad was mad as hell. He was not happy with that because, you know, here I was, I don't know what, 8, 9, 10 years old, put me on a connecting flight. And, you know, back then it wasn't where they had like unaccompanied minor. That wasn't the deal. So I went from, from this airport to this airport until I got home, and my dad was not happy. Imagine if my dad would have said, this is the third time that you have embarrassed the family, that you have broken our heart, that you have been disobedient to follow the rules of the school, of the boarding school. And for that reason, you're not coming home. I will not have you come back into this house because you're disobedient. Imagine if my dad said that, like God did. He kicked them out of the garden, and he put I think it's 2 big angels to protect the gate so that they could not come back in. I started asking all these questions. Where's the compassion? Where is the empathy? Where is the sympathy? Where is the forgiveness? Where are all those attributes that us as human hold ourselves to those standards are higher than what God demonstrated. My dad, you know what he did? I came home and, he went to the airport and he got me, and he was not happy with me. But he didn't, I should have gotten a whooping, but at that point, my dad was concerned that there was something wrong with me. He thought there was something either mentally wrong or psychologically, emotionally. My dad wanted to know what is wrong with my child. And whatever it is, we need to figure it out and we need to get it fixed. Imagine if my dad would have said, "That's it. You have embarrassed us. You cannot come here anymore. We sent you away to school and you're supposed to come back having graduated from whatever, you know, elementary school, junior high. And here you are coming back because you were kicked out." And then as a result, my dad said, okay, if she cannot stay, then he pulled my sister out as well. So here we are back. And, in that kind of society, that's a big embarrassment. But my dad's concern was about me. So you know what they did? They went to different, they took me to different uh, places for them to check my head to find out what is wrong with her, what is wrong with me. They even thought I had a curse or something. They really went to try to figure out what is wrong with my child. Come to find out there was nothing wrong with me. I was just missing my mom and dad and my little sister at the time. And that was just my way of expressing my longing to be home. I didn't even know that. So they informed me, and there is nothing wrong with her. Her cognitive skills are good, her reaction, her response skills, all of that was good. So my dad is like, so anyway, they decided to keep me home, to keep me at home. And then they went on to send my sister, have her come to the United States to further her education and so forth. But they kept me home. And guess what? Because I had not been in the educational system there in Panama, in my community, they got me a tutor, Senora Fatima, maestra. Era una profesora, teacher. Her name was Fatima, Fatima. And I remember I used to go to her office every single day. And she would tutor me, in math, in science, geography, all of those, so that when the school year started, that I would be equipped to start school. My dad paid for me to have a tutor. First of all, he paid for me to go through all those, a battery of tests, mental, emotional, psychological. He paid for that. They were concerned about my well being. They were concerned about what was happening to my child. My dad that is human. Think about it. Think about how my mind is working. There is God. You created Adam and Eve there in the garden, and you gave instructions not to eat of the fruit. They ate of the fruit. And what you're going to do, God, is to kick them out of the garden and then put this cherubim to safeguard the entry so that they could not come back in. So my question was, would it not have been easier to put the cherubim, the angels, to guard the tree so that they would not have access to the tree? Think about it. It would have been easy if you have these angels, these giants. God could have put them in front of the tree to guard access to the tree. that would help mitigate the temptation of Adam and Eve to even get close to that tree. But he didn't do that. He kicked them out. He's like, no, you are, imagine, grave disobedience. Just such, and it's interesting because I used to teach that when because I was an active Christian. I was in, I taught in Bible school and all of that. And I would teach in judgment of Adam and Eve, how disobedient they were. Think of yourself. Have you not sometimes, some people that, they want to go on a diet and you say, well, today's the last day I'm going to consume sugar. I am not going to have any sugar. So today I'm going to have ice cream. I'm going to have cookies. I'm going to have cake. I'm going to have, a candy bar. And this is it. And then tomorrow you are invited someplace and they made your favorite dessert. And then you say, well, you know what? I'm going to start tomorrow. But you have the dessert. Or those of you that, if you're like me, you like shoes. And you say, this is it. I'm not going to buy another pair of shoes. And then, it shows up on your, Nordstrom app, these beautiful shoes. And you're like, okay, just this one shoe I'm going to buy. And you look at it, you check the size, you check the whole, construction of the shoe, and you're toying with the idea. And then you designate your size, you designate the width, you designate the color, and you put it in add to bag. And you thought, you know what? No, I'm not going to get it, but it's in the add to bag. Then you come back the next day and you look at it and you just thought, oh yeah, I can wear this place and that place. And then guess what? What do? You click on place order, send it off. And you were supposed to curtail your shopping for shoes because you already have, 200 pairs of shoes in your closet and some that you haven't even used. Have you done that? Or if you go to the other extreme, people that are involved in pornography and struggle with that. And I say that because I know that there are many, especially people in Christianity, struggle with pornography. And I know that because I have counseled people having to do with that kind of situation. And they say, okay, this is it. I'm done with it. I am done. No more porn. I am done with it. And then they may, be tempted, and then they abstain. And then a week later, they go right back to the vice of absorbing pornography. Imagine they missed the mark. You consumed the dessert. You clicked place order and you bought another pair of shoes that you really don't need. And a week later, you go back to your porn site to consume the vice. And then there's Adam and Eve. They ate of the fruit and God kicked them out. Now, you haven't consumed the dessert after saying you're going to abstain from sugar. You may beat up on yourself, or you may say, well, I'll just start the next day. And you may struggle with that. And then with the shoes, you may say, well, I'm going to, and you forgive yourself. And then with the porn, you keep beating up on yourself because it's something that you are so addicted to. But then when I think about God, not only did he curse the land, but he said to Eve, you will conceive in sorrow, and I'm going to put hatred between you and the serpent. And, and the fear, because my thing is, when I think of God, based on the information that I created in my mind, the fact that they said, when he said, "Where are you, Adam and Eve?" And the fact that they said, "We heard you coming and we were afraid." What would you do as a parent? Wouldn't you say, "No, no, no, you don't have to be afraid. Come here." And even if you were going to discipline your children, what would you tell them? "Come here. Let me tell you." Remember the whole scenario I did with the pool? With the pool, if you jumped in and you caught little buddy and you said, "What did I tell you? Did I not tell you not to come close to the edge because you could fall in the pool?" And you would take little buddy and take him inside and clean him up and make sure that he's breathing well and so forth. But you, remember, did not even put a fence around the pool, just like God did not put the angels to protect the tree, knowing very well, because he foreknows everything, knowing very well that they would have slipped. But you, with the pool, you would get little buddy and his brother, and you would take them inside, and then the first thing you would be doing after that, you would be calling contractors to make sure that you can build a fence, or it could be locked and they would not have access, and then you would probably take your kids to swimming classes just in case. You would be doing all of that. As a matter of fact, if you're child seemed like he was gasping for breath, you may even take him to the doctor to make sure that his lungs are clear, and you would nurture the child. Where is that God? Where is that God? Those are the questions that I ask myself. Where is that God? They said they were afraid. Did you do anything to calm their fear? Did you do anything to relieve the whole point of sharing with, telling Eve that she will conceive in sorrow? And you were right. Childbearing, yeah, it's a painful thing. Where is that God? So when I think of all of that, I start asking these questions. And these are all valid questions. These are all things that I just, when I read those in Genesis 1 and 2, when I read that years ago, it did not occur to me to question the author of all of it. It did not. It did not. It did not. There was an element of fear and decision that you make in your mind that God is creator and he can do everything. Well, came a point that we hold God responsible. That we hold God responsible. And not everybody has that kind of confidence, because most people approach that relationship out of fear. The same fear that started with Adam. He said, "We heard you coming and we were afraid." Can you imagine if I went back to Panama and you know what? I was afraid. When I was on my way back, remember it was a connecting flight. And when I was on my last leg back to, before I got home, I was so afraid. I was afraid that, I embarrassed my family's name and embarrassed my parents, and how would they even account for me coming back? I'm not even graduated from primary school or none of that. I was afraid. But when I met my dad, he picked me up, and he was not happy. He was not happy. But he didn't give me a whooping or anything. We went home, and my mom was happy to see me, and so forth. Remember, my sister was still back at the school. He didn't, wasn't till after, a couple days or whatever, he said, send her. We're not paying another month's tuition. And of course, it wasn't their fault. It was my fault because I was mischievous. It was me. There were three of us, three younger ones in the dorm: Ofma Rivas, Olga Rivera, and myself. I remember that clearly. And we would just do a lot of mischief. And they were very strict. But my dad, the next day, my mom was busy trying to get appointments for me because they thought there was something wrong with me. And they thought if there's something wrong with my child, we are going to fix it. By then, I wasn't afraid. I was just happy to be home. I was just happy to be home in my environment, having the comforts of life and just being at home. I was happy and I was not afraid. And even though, it's interesting because, my dad in his life, in my life, has never told me he loved me. Ever. My dad has never said, I love you. But boy, did he show it. He showed it. He just didn't know how because my dad became an orphan at the age of 7, I believe. So he didn't have that nurturing type of environment in which he grew up because he was, with relatives and so forth. And then he went, from to Panama and made a successful life for himself. And the thing with my dad, all he wanted to do was to provide well for his family. He provided well for his family. So I didn't get a whooping at all, but I went from appointment to appointment, and again, they discovered there was nothing wrong with me. So are you saying that my parents have a higher standard of morals than what God showed to Adam and Eve? You've got to question that. Do they have a higher standard of morals and understand human dignity and the value, the worth of me than God showed toward Adam and Eve? When I think of it, my friend, when I think of all of that, it made me question, who is this God that I'm following? And it start to hold God responsible. I start to humanize things based on the stories I read in this Bible, not my electronic Bible. I start to humanize everything. Then there was the issue of the flood with, there was Noah. He said the earth is full of corruption and all these people are just immoral and corrupt and all of that. And he says, Noah, you build an ark, you get 2 animals each and you get them in there and you and your family, whatever, and I am going to flood the earth and kill them all. That's how I started reading it again. I'm going to kill them all. Just imagine you are at home with your family watching Netflix, whatever, and it starts to rain. Well, it rains, whatever, and then you realize, wait a minute, the rain is coming up, in the house and so forth, and it start rising and rising and rising and rising. Do you remember, for those of you that are in the U.S., do you remember Katrina? You remember how gut-wrenching horror that was? People on top of the roof trying to save themselves from that water that was rising. and a man holding his wife's hand, and she is saying, take care of the grandbabies or something to that effect, and he just couldn't hold it anymore, and she died. She drowned. Imagine a whole population of people, and then you have Noah with his family in the ark, and the water is rising, 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 and they're saying, help, help, wait a minute, help. Where is the God of compassion? Where is he? This is not, I don't even know why I'm getting into this, but I'm just sharing with you. These are the things that freed me, that took away the fear, made me free to be my true, authentic self. People are screaming, babies and children and men and women screaming, and the water keeps rising, and they all drown and dead. Where is the human element in that? Where is the compassion? Those that wrote the Bible, they did a horrible job creating this God, because we create this God. And I'm not, you can worship, there are many gods. You can worship whoever you want, but I'm saying this God of the Christian Bible, it was created by them. And that's the story that they attach to them. And based on that, that's the information. Based on that information, I created these images in my mind about this God, because he's all in my imagination, or at least was. I don't, right now it doesn't matter to me whether it's God or whether it's I don't spend time thinking about that. I went back and I revisited Genesis simply because I am sharing this show, and that's what you have shared with me. And then there's the other story of Sodom and Gomorrah. And then again, there's another, it's no different from today. You see all these things happening today. They're human, and some people do bad things and some people do good things. Some people are, but the value of each life is worthy. But it's no different from today, Sodom and Gomorrah. And he said to Lot, Abraham's nephew, I believe that's who it is. Again, I have disconnected from this whole Bible narrative for so long that, now it's coming back. But I think Lot was the nephew of Abraham. And then he says to Lot, the wickedness of the people of this place has grown to such an extent, I am going to annihilate them with brimstone, fire and brimstone. I'm going to burn it up. And he says, get your 2 daughters and get your wife, and you flee, because I'm going to rain down fire and brimstone and burn them all up. That's wicked. In my mind, that's barbaric. It's like a tyrannical maniac. That is barbaric. That is my conclusion. And you can say God can do whatever he wants. That's barbaric, because I wouldn't even do that. You probably wouldn't even do that. But that's the reality of what's in here. That's the reality of what's written in there. And then he says to Lot and his 2 daughters and his wife, he says, don't look back, because if you look back, you'll turn into a pillar of salt. What? A pillar of salt? What the hell? Why? Just imagine, you are fleeing. You may have left your friends, family, acquaintances, people that you know, people that you love, and you are fleeing, and you just look back. It's like, oh my gosh. And he turns Lot's wife into a pillar of salt. In my mind, that is wicked. The writers of the Bible should have really showed God a little more compassionate. That's why when people say, oh, God is good all the time, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that's the reason many prayers go unanswered. And then he says it. He tells us. He says, I'm the God. I'm the creator of all. I'm the creator of good and I'm the creator of evil. So he tells you, it's like Maya Angelou says, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. Believe them. And that's what he says. I am the creator of evil. Imagine Lot's wife. I am sure out of grieving her own heart, she looked back just to see, like, oh, like my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my nieces, my nephew, and they may have been probably, I don't imagine that they're all corrupt, but he said, I'm gonna wipe this city out. I'm gonna kill them all. That, my friend, is critical thinking. And I don't, this, people talk about free will and reading out of context. That's how I read it. There's no such thing as free will. And I could just see Lot's wife just looking back like, oh, he turned her into a pillar of salt. No compassion, no grace. We would not have had to have grace at all if there was a compassionate God, a forgiving, a loving, a nurturing Father. So what happens now is that, we are so afraid that you take credit for nothing when and that was me. When something bad happened to me, I would blame the devil. But when something good happened to me, I would attribute it to God. And that was just the norm. That was just the norm. I would just say, God did this and God did. Me take credit? I was afraid. I was afraid. In the meantime, I'm the one that put in the work. I'm the one that have the skills, the expertise. And you can say, well, God gave it to you. It doesn't matter. I put in the work. And my dad, when I went back and finished tutoring and all, and my dad, he was just, I went to school and I became like an honorable student and leadership in school and all that. And then he registered me into the Atlantic City Country Club. And then I had my debutante. My dad did some things. I used to get like a new dress almost every week because I just like nice things and whatever. And my dad was, as a matter of fact, my dad was the person that said to me, and I've shared this a story before, we went to the store and he's over there, I'm over here looking at this dress. It's beautiful and so forth. And the dress is expensive. And so my dad is over there looking at me, looking at whatever. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm looking at this dress. It's so beautiful. He said, well, do you want it? I said, yes, Dad, but look how much. He said, if you have to ask the price, you cannot afford it. He said, if you want it, get it. You deserve it. And those words, I don't even know that my dad knew how those words affected me. He said, if you want it, get it. You deserve it. And so I went through life thinking that I deserved to be happy, to be well provided for, to be loved, to have good relationships, to have the things that I want, not to mention the things that I need, to have that, to have a good life, to be able to travel, to do the things I want to do the things that make me happy, to do the things that keeps me, energized and, invigorated and happy. I believe I deserve that. Not because I'm special, just because I believe it. So can you think that about yourself and not be afraid to hold God accountable? Hold God accountable. With that, and I've got some more things to share, and that will be for another show. I'm going to continue this because now I am really coming into into more clarity as to why I have this position that I'm in now, this mental space. And I'm happy because it's really unfolding some truth. Because you know what? It's been 15 years since I left religion and church and all that. And let me make clear, I didn't leave because we were traumatized or because we were hurt or we were angry. No, we could go back tomorrow and we will be well received because we showed our pastors the respect they deserve as humans. We showed them respect, so we can go back anytime. We were not hurt or traumatized. No, we didn't. That did not apply to us. None of it. So I did not have to go through a deconstructing, phase of deconstructing from religion. I just had to uh, reread and rethink and for myself and know that wait a minute, this is not, and ask myself the questions. Because if you ask these questions in church, it's like, where's God's compassion? If God tells you to forgive 70 times 7, does God, and to forgive everyone of everything, what doesn't God forgive the devil, who he created? He created Satan. And there's no account in the Bible of where Satan killed anyone. Now he went to God. I know everybody's going to say, "Well, what about Job?" No, he said he only served you because you have blessed him with wealth and riches and a good family and so forth. And you said you put him to the test. Imagine. That's why everybody walk around, saying, "Oh, this is a test. This is a trial." What kind of a life is that? That is abhorrent. What kind of a life is that? Oh, I'm going through a test. Oh, I need a breakthrough. I'm going through trial. That is madness. That is madness. How can you live a life of peace and joy and contentment and good relationships with people? No, if you're always going through a trial and lack and not having enough and not feeling well. He said, "I am the God that healeth thee." If you are not well, the compassionate God that you think he is, or that I used to think he is, you should be able to imagine. I came back and my parents thought there was something wrong in my mind, and they went to the best therapist to seek help for me, to see how I could be healed of any kind of mental situation. If I was schizophrenic or bipolar, back in those days, we didn't use those terms, but if I was cray cray, that's what they would have said. If is she losing a nut? She's losing, a screw. What is wrong with her? 3 times expelled out of school. So they seek to get me well. And today I find many people that call themselves believers. Somebody said the other day, "Oh, God is good all the time," and they were just going on. And then in another breath, they said something like, "Oh, yes, I suffer from migraines." And that was just normal. That was just normal. But in another breath, they said, "God is good all the time." I hope this helps you. We're going to continue this because I have a whole thing that I look into and I'm questioning. I'm more in depth now looking through the Bible, trying to really decipher and ask questions and see how this all, trying to reconcile it with what the Bible says. But then because I know that it's been written by man with the whole idea to control, to manipulate and control the social structure as it was developing, I understand why it was written that way. As you saw, it starts with fear. Adam saying, "I heard you were coming and I was afraid." And there was nothing that God did to soothe their fear. To say, no, not. It's daddy. It's daddy. Come on, just come over here. Now, I told you not to eat of the fruit. Why did you? Okay. And then you start giving instructions. You start giving instructions. That didn't happen. Why did it not happen? Who is this God? Who is this character that's demonstrating this barbaric behavior, tyrannical behavior? That is my assessment of, based on the information of the image that I created since I left that whole religious circle. And with that, my friend, I'm going to leave you with that. And I'm going to encourage you to ask your own question, do your own search, do your own digging, and then you will find out, why is it that you're afraid? Why is it that you don't trust? Why is it that, you need to have faith for everything? After a while, you become a realist like I am. I need verifiable truth. I want to see the truth. That works for me. In the meantime, every Thursday, we have a date, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here. And if you can't meet me, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 24/7, you can watch LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. We will see each other next week, same time, same place. If you need to drop me a note, go to info@thecynthialinoxshow.com. Share with me whatever you want, and I will, take it from there. Either get back with you or, incorporate it in some of my findings and some of what I share and so forth. I'm also a certified transformational life coach. So if you need to chat with me, I offer a 30-minute complimentary consultation, and you can do that. Again, just drop me a note, info@thecynthialinoxshow.com, and we can take it from there. In the meantime, my friend, I will see you next week. I hope this has helped you, and I encourage you to go do your own digging, your own search, your own, check your own resources, be creative. And with that, you will see how you start shedding fear and things are going to open up for you, because that's the whole idea, to shed the fear and start a life being your true, authentic self, a life of meaning, and a life that where you feel fulfilled. Okay, semana. I will see you next week, same time, same place.